Bonjour à tous. Je vais vous demander de bien vouloir prendre place, pas pour longtemps, parce que cette conférence est en anglais. Donc pour ceux qui ne comprennent pas l'anglais, il faut récupérer votre casque à l'entrée et quand vous sortez, vous le laissez bien sur votre chaise, on le récupérera. Je vous laisse quelques secondes pour faire ça, qu'on puisse commencer. Voilà, je vois que tout le monde a quasiment récupéré son casque. Je vais tout d'abord vous remercier d'être là avec nous. Voilà. Je voulais tout d'abord vous remercier d'être là avec nous pour cette première conférence Rent 2022. Personnellement, ça fait 5 ans que je les anime et que je les présente, donc je reconnais quand même pas mal de têtes de personnes qui sont là dans nos animateurs et même dans le public. Alors cette conférence va être animée par Stéphanie Demuru, qui est journaliste et qui va me rejoindre dans un instant ici sur la scène. Elle va vous présenter les conférenciers qui vont animer cette conférence. Mais de quoi parle cette conférence? Eh bien, tout simplement du regard croisé sur les différents marchés Proptech internationaux. Mais je pense que vous le saviez évidemment en arrivant ici. Je vais vous demander d'applaudir bien fort Stéphanie Demuru. Juste avant, j'ai juste vous demandé de ne pas oublier, comme je vous le dis toujours, on coupe les GSM, comme ça empêche les dérangements. Stéphanie, bonne conférence.
Merci Sandrine, merci à tous d'être là. Alors je vais tâcher de vous sortir mon meilleur anglais, ça va pas forcément être évident, vous me pardonnerez un gros accent français, j'espère en tout cas bien me faire comprendre ce matin. Welcome to this Rent event. I'm glad to have with me on stage the major international character who have accepted to come here to explain their vision of the Proptech, also speak about their issue, perspective and future. Let me introduce you, lady first, Natasha Terinova, director at Reach UK. Come on, Natasha, join me on stage, please. Thank you. Bertrand Martin from Casavo, Italy. Bonjour Bertrand. You represent Casavo from Italy. Matthias Flatin, partner managing director of Proptech and Contech at Axeleo Capital. Hello. And the last but not the least, Victor Lund, CEO, Area Technology and Managing Partner, Wave Group from USA, from LA. Thank you, Victor, to be here. So thank you, guys. We'll find you back in a few moments, but before, let's welcome to Dimitri Krem from Axeleo Capital, who will exclusively reveal the last figures from European Proptech Contact Rent Index. Hello, Dimitri. Come on. Oh, you're here. I let you my face. Thank you.
So, hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me well. So I'm Dimitri and I work as an associate on the Proptech and Contech fund of Axeleo Capital along with Matthias. And so I'm here to do an intro to this conference by talking about statistics about the Proptech and Contech ecosystem in Europe. So we've built alongside Salon Rent an index that should be appearing on the screen at any moment now, compiling data over all the investment rounds happening in Europe in the Proptech and Contech spheres. So there you can see in the index, and I'm going for the next 5 to 6 minutes to comment it with you guys. So as you can see from the index on the screen, since we started this work back in early 2021, we've analyzed almost 700 rounds in Europe. Out of these 700 rounds, 96 of them took place over the last quarter, which is going to be the period that we're interested in. So Q3 2022, which includes the month of July, August, and September. And so I'm going to detail with you 5 points that I think are the main conclusions to be drawn from this index, and that I think can lay an interesting context for the conference to come. So the first point, it's about the total amount raised by Proptech and Contech in Europe. As you can see from the bar chart, there is a decrease. We counted for 570 million euros raised over Q3 in Europe with those 96 rounds. So it's less than over Q2, which was around 750 million, and it's even lesser than for Q1, which was the highest quarter with more than €1 billion invested in Proptech and Contech in Europe. So there is a decrease, there is a slowdown, but it doesn't mean that there is no activity anymore. 570 million euros raised is a lot of money, of course. It's not nothing. And as you can see from the chart, we're back at the levels of 1 year ago in 2021 at the same period on Q3 2021. So that's my first point. My second point is the chart you can see, the horizontal one on the upper part. It's that this activity which is maintained in Proptech and Contech in Europe, it's very much early stage. 60% of the rounds that took place over the last quarter are early stage rounds. So we see tons of pre-seed rounds, tons of seed rounds, tons of angel rounds, and much less later stage rounds, Series B, Series C, and over. In fact, we counted only 5 rounds of 20 million and above over the last quarter. So a slowdown and an ecosystem which is still very much early stage. Third point, it's on impact. 40% of the rounds that we accounted for on this last quarter were made by startups with ESG as a core aspect of their value proposal. 40%, it's enormous. It's the highest we've seen this statistic at. At Q2, for example, it was 33%. So we see tons of startups raising funds with like a value prop geared towards sustainability or social impact. Fourth point, it's on the geographies. As you can see from the map, we talk about Proptech in Europe, but in fact, you have 3 markets, France, UK, and Germany, which are capturing most of the investments. And in fact, 60%, more than 60% of the total invested amount in Proptech and Contech in Europe over the last quarter is invested in those 3 markets, with the UK far ahead with 26 rounds registered. Then you have France and Germany. And last point, what are the market segments which are capturing most value within Proptech and Contech? It's also a question that we tried to answer. And what you can see from the circular chart, it's that it's really the fintech plays today which manage to capture most investments and most value. It's the category we call finance and invest. It accounts for 1/3 of the total invested amount in Proptech and Contech over Q3. So I'm talking about crowdfunding plays, I'm talking about fractionalization of assets, about neo-lenders, about mortgage lenders. That kind of plays manages to capture a lot of value. Then you have market and transaction plays, so transactional tools powering real estate transaction, and Casavo is a great example of this. And finally, and it will be my conclusion, let's not forget about Contech, because Contech, it only accounts for 15% of the invested amount, But, and that's something you can see from the curve, we see more and more significant rounds of context startups happening quarter after quarter. I illustrated it with a few names: Alchemy, Modulus, O11H, Disperse.io, are good example of context companies managing to raise significant rounds of 5, 10, 15 million. And so it's probably a trend that we're going to see grow over the next quarters. So thank you very much. Hope it was enlightening for you and that it can set the context for the exchange to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitri, for all this interesting information. The index show that the ecosystem is maintaining its momentum despite the bad economic situations. That's a good point. So it's time to go back to all our speakers today. We just heard about figures. So what about your analysis? Lady first. I'm happy to have a woman with me tonight. That's a good point. This morning. Natasha, you just heard about this figure. UK has a good result on the top of European market. Reaction? Oh. Si on peut, voilà, allumer le micro de Natasha. Okay,
hi.
Great,
Hello.
we hear you.
Can we hear
Good.
me? Hi, my name is Natasha Terinova. I am a part of the US company's UK office. So I lead a technology scale-up program, which is owned by a venture capital organization called Second Century Ventures. And I'm going to start with introduction because I think it just puts things into perspective. We are anything but the traditional venture capital organization. First of all, our fund is evergreen single LP fund, and our LP, or our backer, who capitalized us back in 2008, is the largest trade association in the world. So in a way, that gives us a double mandate. So we were appointed by the industry to find the technologies with a genuine use case within real estate, both commercial and residential. And on the other hand, we need to make sure that we back the companies that are commercially successful and sustainable. As a part of the scale-up program, we make small equity investment. It's about £150,000. But I think now, in current economic conditions, it could be any currency. It's kind of almost the same. And as a part of the Second Century Ventures, we can invest anything from $500,000 to 5. In Europe, we prefer not to lead the rounds, but we do participate in the raises that are done by the companies in Europe. So in terms of the market, I think everything that Dimitri presented and Axelio's research is absolutely fantastic because it confirms what we see in the UK. And I think all of us were hoping for an uneventful 2022, especially post-pandemic. And now we can see that the pandemic eased off the influence. However, with the current geopolitical situation, with the unstable government in the UK, although I think with the coming of Rishi Sunak, financial markets have a little bit more stability. We still, the industry in the UK, the residential part of real estate is still not regulated. So I think our association was trying to get this to regulate for the last 5 years, but it's always kind of going down the list of to-do list. The other thing that I can see on the commercial side is a lot of climate technologies. And now a lot of people say, and a lot of industry say that Proptech equals climate tech. What is also interesting in terms of London, we actually have, so in terms of UK, we have about 770 Proptech startups. 500 of them are London-based. We are very London-centric. We still follow the US in terms of the number of investments, but there's still lack of early stage funding in the UK. The other interesting thing I want to mention before I pass on my mic is that out of the 770 startups, 58% are resi, they're residential, 38% are commercial, and only 4% is retail. And the one thing I kind of want to leave the audience with is that you can't really look at the technology market without understanding the influences of the property sector, because these two do not live in isolation. And at the moment, the industry is in a little bit of a turmoil.
Thank you, Natasha, for this information. Let's go to the south of Europe in Italy, since Bertrand represents Casavo from Italy today. Let me just remind you guys that Casavo is famous for its e-buyer activity, and you have realized 400 million euro fundraising a few months ago. You also make the headline with a Proprio acquisition. Bertrand, what is the reality Proptech to you?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good. So, hello, everyone. So, I think so Bertrand Martin, I'm the general manager for France at Casavo. And I think as part of Casavo, we are in a unique position of being on kind of both sides of the table, meaning that on one hand, as you said, we've raised funds to accelerate our growth over the last couple of months, but also acquire a couple of companies. So we are at the same time investors as much as a startup that needs to grow. And I think that provides us with a unique position in the market. There are two main takeaways for me that the study from Axelio confirms is, on one hand, especially in the French market, you have a lot of energy, a lot of new innovative startups coming in, but at the same time it's still very early stage, even though the French market is by far the largest for real estate in Europe. So I think there's still a lot of room to grow there. And the second thing is, in real estate, it's very hard to build a pan-European player. It's always very local. And I think consolidation at European level will be potentially a path, a track for many actors, industrial actors, to grow over many countries. And I think having those local, smaller players starting off locally will be key for that strategic growth over many countries. And I think the example of Casavo acquiring Proprio in France this summer is a key example of that. It fuels the growth to export a model in a variety of countries. So I think that's one of the key elements I take away from the study is really the vibrant scene, small players, still a lot of early stage investments. And I think the hardest is to move from the very early stage to the kind of scale up, larger rounds. These are slowed down. The market conditions are not the best for, let's say, late stage investments. So I think we will see a lot of industrial, strategic acquisition to fuel the growth of many key actors, whether it's from a transactional perspective or servicing, SaaS, B2B market in real estate.
Thank you for this presentation, Bertrand. Let's go now to USA. It's very big market, of course, we know that. Victor Lund, thank you. It's an honor for us, you to be here. Thank you for traveling such a long trip from LA to be part of us. Could you tell me more about your market and, for example, certain fundraising you have made recently?
Well, thank you. It's great to be here. Last time I was here was 2019, and then something happened. We had a global pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we saw change in America, well, everything changed in America, and I think here in Europe and globally as well. So in the real estate and Proptech sector, we've seen a significant shift in commercial, and that's created a lot of opportunities. People went home, they're working from home. So we're beginning to see a lot of investment in how to repurpose commercial property in the United States. On the mortgage side, we've seen a tremendous, we had a lot of government funding go into supporting mortgages. So for many people in America, they didn't have to pay their mortgage, they didn't have to pay their rent for over a year. And as they started to incorporate, going back to that, the government artificially reduced interest rates. I think you guys are still in an interest rate reduced area here in Europe. We're at 7.5% for a 30-year loan right now. So there's a tremendous amount of equity going into helping mortgage companies become more efficient. So we're seeing a lot of investment in mortgage tech. We're seeing quite a lot of interest in what's happening in the rental market. So during the pandemic, 1 in 5 homes in America, single-family residences, was purchased by private equity investors. So they're taking, what used to be a home that a family would live in, and now they're turning it into a rental. So much of that has ended. With the interest rates going up, they've slowed that, and along with it, the market has slowed down tremendously as well. But there's a lot of new rental technology that's going into helping private equity companies manage their asset portfolio, which is kind of a new category that really wasn't done much before. How many homes do you have now? Total?
A couple 100,000.
A couple 100,000 homes. So obviously when you have owners of property that have a couple 100,000 units, like that introduces a need for new technology. So that's been an important area of investment in America. I think in the residential sector, we saw something that was quite interesting. The real estate agents did not have to work very hard to get a listing or to sell a listing. I think in San Francisco, average number of days on market went down to 3. We had an incredible bidding system where people would, maybe the list price was $1 million, but people would come in with offers of up to $1.2, $1.3 million for the property. This was happening across America, but significantly in California, so we saw a lot of increases. But what that did to the Proptech sector is you didn't have to work as hard to get a listing or to market a property for sale. You got the listing, you put it in the multiple listing service. You guys don't have that here. But our MLS is really good because any property agent can find any listing that's available in the market through their multiple listing. They share and cooperate. So we've seen a rebirth in the way that real estate agents and brokers have gotten involved in investing and marketing properties again, which is really exciting. And I don't know, I think overall the climate over the last 6 months has changed again. So with the increase of interest rates, the slowing of the number of units of properties selling, the amount of money and income that's going to the brokerage community and the real estate agent community has dove like 40 to 50%. So everybody is very uncertain. They're not investing as much in themselves, and we've seen a significant drop-off in the investment in technology.
Thank you, Victor. We can see all the specificity of different countries. To conclude on this trend, let's go back to Europe before letting you exchange between you guys, and specifically France with you, Matthias. What's up in France? What can you say about the French situation?
Hi. Hello. Yes. Hello, everybody. Thanks. So I'm Matthias Flatin. I'm a partner at Axeleo Capital, and I'm also managing the Proptech activity, a fund of 40 million euros that we raised 2 years ago now. So first to introduce Axeleo Capital, we only invest at seed stage, so very early stage for a startup. We invest in Europe, and our claim is we need to have expert teams to be sure that we invest in the correct companies at the right moment. That's why we raised a Proptech fund dedicated to investments in real estate and construction. The thing is, raising that fund in 2020 was still a bit early with the market. I've been a VC for 12 years. I've grown a VC thinking that there was nothing to do in real estate in terms of innovation. And we saw that trend happening from the US with very successful companies, very successful exits. And we saw the quality of the deal flow, the number of companies in Europe coming in Proptech, with that term, Proptech, happening in Europe like 5 years ago. So we started to wonder ourselves what was happening. Will the same happen in Europe like it happened in the US like 3 years ahead? So we started to work on that fund in 2018. At that time, Axeleo Capital was managing another fund focusing on B2B tech, same thesis, but on enterprise software. Same idea of being an expert to invest in the right field. And we saw the deal flow growing, and we started to wonder why it was happening. Basically, the only reason that came from the due diligence we made was real estate players are making a lot of money. They don't need to change that much how they make the money. It's very risky. They have very long-term cycles, project cycles. So why would they innovate? And the reason, the answer for us at that time was they innovate because of external factors. They innovate because of regulation, sustainability concerns, lack of productivity, and the combination of these three with a change of the social paradigm, basically flex office, nomadism. These external factors made us think that there's an opportunity, there will be an opportunity, and actually the funny thing is we raised that fund mid-2020, so right in the middle of COVID, first wave of COVID at least. So it was a bit risky for us, but the good thing is after the first lockdown, all the limited partners, all the investors in the fund confirmed that they were coming because more than ever they needed a solution to change their model, to make it more efficient, to bring answers to sustainability concerns. And I think that trend has been growing in the past 2 years in Europe. These concerns, we see that right now with the combination of workforce shortage, cost of raw materials, interest rates, volatility, whatever, name it. So right now, our fund, 40 million euros, 11 portfolio companies. Half of the portfolio has been invested in France as of today, and the rest in Europe. Romania, Norway, Austria, Netherlands, UK now, since last week. And what's amazing is the quality and the quantity of the deal flow. On the past 2 years with Dimitri and the rest of the team, we've analyzed more than 3,500 companies to invest in 11 only, which shows the number of teams trying to tackle these issues of efficiency in real estate. So France is on the last quarter the third market. Basically, you have 3 big markets in Proptech: UK, Germany, and France. So sometimes France is second, sometimes France is third. Not first, but it's going to come soon. Sorry, Natasha. When we see the rent, how big it's become from year to year, and congratulations to the team, by the way. It's again, I think this year is going to be amazing. French market is very deep. The thing is, we speak French. We have our own culture. So from an international investment or investor or partner perspective, it can be complicated to address France. But still, it's one of the biggest markets in Europe. We have some of the global leaders in France in asset management, in real estate, property development, in whatever. So we need to be the leader in Europe soon, I think. Sorry to being that French. Yeah, that's my answer.
When we hear you that there is a lot of pressure on the real estate ecosystem, we think about the increase, and you told us, of rate, cost of inflation. Natasha, especially in Europe, of course, in despite of this constraint, do you plan to make other investments?
So, something's wrong with the sound. Hi. Everyone hears me?
Hi again.
Right. So there's one point that Matthias said that I would like to build up on.
Yeah, sure.
French technology ecosystem is amazing. We backed 2 French companies, and they've done fantastically well because we're very hands-on investors. So the first company that we share in our portfolio is a company, Mirai. They are the commercial technology company. And the second company is an impact female-led startup called Moki. Actually, also something to build up on Dimitri's stats. That was 22% invested in the startups that have at least one female in the team. Well, we just went through hundreds of applications. I have a handful of female-led startups. They are still very, very far and very few between. The way we look at the industry and the way I sort of articulate the narrative about things that are important to me. So for example, if we talk about climate, I see there's 3 main drivers of the narrative of ESG in the real estate. The first one is the amount of funding available and type of funding. Because, you know, if we are looking at the technology that is ready to be deployable, that has a sleek API, that everyone can integrate that, then the longer term investors, think pension funds, they look at the investments very differently. So they do, you know, they evaluate climate risks very differently. The second part of this equation for me is that occupiers and tenants are now waking up to the climate concerns too. And the third one is legislation. Typically, within this triangle, when we talk about climate, there's a lot of disparity right now. And one of the investments I wanted to talk about actually is not climate, but it's a fintech. But that is a fantastic illustration how all of these three things, or all of the components and all of the stakeholders need to work together for the companies to succeed. So we've participated in Hammock's Series A from the Second Century Ventures Fund. And that was very much on the back of the legislation that now makes UK landlords to submit their tax digitally 4 times a year. And the real estate practitioners or real estate agents in the property sector, as we call them in the UK, they are responsible to make sure that their landlords are compliant. So we have, and the way we look at technology is very different. So yeah, I come from climate tech, so this is going to be always important to me. Because we are backed by the association, by the largest trade association, we are one of the first investors of DocuSign. Are they Proptech? Not really. They're legal tech. However, with the length of transaction being one of the main pain points in the UK, they make it easier to transact.
Thanks, Natasha. Victor, Natasha talked about a lot of issue, few women in Europe. United States is the same, no more women.
I think we see more female entrepreneurs in America than you do in other countries. There are quite a few businesses that are run by women.
Great.
I think that's going to be important, but to be honest, as an investor, that's a very small component of our investment decisions are made around the principle, the principle themselves. So we invest mostly in companies that we believe are solving an important problem for real estate. We would love, if there were a choice between a man-run company and a woman-run company, we would choose the woman, absolutely. My business partner is a woman. She's the managing partner of Wave Group, and she's also the president of RE Technology. So, that's a really important part. I think Eric, from Centris in Montreal, he works mostly with my business partner, who's a woman. But we're making really challenging investment decisions today. And, for us, we're kind of looking for opportunities that exist that have been caused by the changes in the market. One of the biggest opportunities that we see, for those of you who are developing technology here, is that once you work with a client to acquire a property, you ghost them, you leave them, you don't talk to them again. You may send them drip marketing or a little bit of information, but you don't give them information that's more valuable. So in America, there's maybe 13 years between your purchases. So we're trying to solve the problem of how the real estate agent and the loan officer, the mortgage company, stay relevant to their customer over that lifetime of home ownership. So one of our big investments in 2022 is a company called Milestones.ai. I think we shared that investment. But they raised $8.5 million. They were oversubscribed. And that's the kind of innovation that we're looking for.
Thank you for your honesty of a woman, Victor. Matthias, what do you think about Victor told us what we should improve in Europe, especially to follow better maybe the client?
To follow the client? Sorry, I'm sure.
No, what's your reaction?
Yeah, I think the client is the reason for the market to change. That's one of the external factors I was talking about earlier. So there is this paradigm shift, social shift from the client perspective. And it's not about it's not about the corporates. It's not from the corporates. It's about the client himself who wants to consume real estate digitally, who wants to find recurring models, which is easier as well and has been proven in other fields, recurring business models of real estate, pay-per-use rather than being an owner, or anyway, being an owner has become so complicated and expensive today with all these volatile prices. So the customer is something we are looking at a lot, and that's why we have, I think, 40% of the portfolio in B2C startups, because the consumer is a reason for the market to change. And it's easier sometimes to convince a consumer that ESG is important, that consuming real estate digitally is important, rather than spending a lot of time with a corporate trying to convince him that despite his long-term sales cycles, project cycles, he should implement your technology, because your technology will be implemented in a project maybe in 2 or 3 years. So, of course, B2B tech is very, very important in Proptech, and it's one of the channels to change real estate. But consumer is a huge leverage that we shouldn't forget in the ecosystem.
Bertrand, do you agree with Matthias? Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I fully agree. There's a lot of changes on the market, especially on the residential market. People most likely want new ways of accessing properties or selling their properties. We can see it with the success of iBuying and other alternative methods to sell or buy. So I think having all of those new ways and new initiatives, new startups, bringing this innovation is critical. One thing that doesn't change is still clearly very important to build a trust with the sellers or the buyers. Buying, selling property is maybe one event in your lifetime, maybe twice, 3 times, but still very critical from a financial decision perspective or from an affective perspective. So I think building that trust is still absolutely critical, and there's a premium for the larger player that are here historically, and so there's a bit of a match between new players coming in with those innovative ways to buy, sell, and offer new access to property, and the historical ones that are trying to innovate. And I think that's why the ecosystem and Rent is so great, is we can actually meet and share and build a proper ecosystem that at the end of the day is positive for the consumer.
So guys, it's almost time to conclude. Natasha, how do you see the European market involved in the future? Are you optimistic or pessimistic? Or
Magic wand, please. But the way we look at the market, so we are a true global player. We started in the US, we have teams in Australia, Canada, the UK. We're going to soon announce LATAM. So whenever I look at Europe, I look at the technology ecosystem that I can help scale cross-border and cross-jurisdiction. The way I look at the market, I think, whenever we talk about the current problems right now, we work with entrepreneurs. We work with creators and problem solvers, right? It's every opportunity goes hand in hand with a solution. In terms of the UK specifically, I think there's an incredible opportunity for a technology that shortens the length of transaction, because on average, we transact in 150 days. It's incredibly long. No one has put a point on that yet. In terms of climate, I have reasons for concern, and I have reasons to be optimistic. I mean, in terms of concern, I don't think that the level of investment is still there to go hand in hand with decarbonization. But in terms of being optimistic, what we see that the climate tech over the last 10 years actually showed quite some resilience, and it still has investment interest. I think there was a PwC research that said that they surveyed the investors, and 8 out of 10 investors wanted to increase their investment in climate tech and ESG. So I'm just going to leave it with that, sort of in terms of the opportunities. But if I may address the public, if you are a technology startup, if you are ready for the UK and global growth, please find me. It's only my one day at the show, but I'll be around on the floor today. Thank you.
Natasha, Matthias, there is of course a lot of challenge. Natasha talked about climate. How do you handle this question about ISG in your company?
First, we monitor ESG on all our portfolio, which is very important. Asking, would you like to bring gender equality in your team? What would you like to do for sustainability? What are your carbon emissions? First, you need to monitor to know where you stand and what are the triggers of improvement. That's for the company itself and for its activity. ESG, it's the future of real estate and of Proptech. We all sit on a huge gold mine about impact and, of course, sorry to put it like that, money, but improvements of real estate market. This is a gold mine, and we are all alone. Everyone is talking about fintech. Everyone is talking about crypto, whatever, blockchain. These things are tools, but the market, with the money and with the ESG improvements, 40% of carbon emission. Okay, it's here. It's with us. So the only leverage is ESG, and I think this trend, we've seen that it's early stage right now, but some very successful companies are coming, growing very quickly with a lot of equity coming from everywhere in the world. So it's just the beginning.
Thank you, Matthias. Bertrand, before letting the conclusion to our friend, American friend, Bertrand, for you, do you agree with Matthias, this kind of question, this kind of topic, ISG, is it a risk or a chance for your field?
In a sense, both. So I think there are two dynamics that are super important. One is regulation is increasing every day. And consumer expectations on those topics is growing as well. So it's our responsibility as operator to be able to answer to those needs and to be able to walk the clients through all of those topics and making sure we can service them the best way possible. And we see it especially in France. The regulation on energetic efficiency, for example, is becoming stronger and stronger, and it's especially now hard to go through all of those new changes, especially for clients, renters, buyers, sellers. So we definitely bear a responsibility to educate the market and ourselves on those topics.
Victor's word to conclude. What about USA on this kind of topic? Sometimes USA is very criticized on this topic. So what about you?
We have a really healthy community investing in really trying to save energy. Our solar energy, our wind energy, our efficiency of our systems has had major investments over decades, and we're seeing massive improvement, even though I believe the US is still one of the largest polluters in the world, a lot driven by consumption, and everyone has multiple vehicles and other things. So it's going to take a lot of what Bertrand said. It's going to take continued participation with government regulations and government investments to make a change on that. But you know, I think all of us right now need to start focusing this year on conservation in our businesses. We need to think about, you know, I think it's been great that people aren't commuting to work anymore. They're working from home, so that's taken a lot of vehicles off the road. But we're seeing a lot of companies. I think what you're going to see for the next 3 years, and I kind of run this off of what we learned through private equity, is that if you're a PropTech company, you're probably going to have more success partnering with another PropTech company than you are going out for venture capital or private equity. We're seeing a lot of consolidation around partnerships. We have some massive companies in the US and Canada. One of them is called Constellation One. They now own 700 companies. And of those 700, more than 60 of them are in PropTech. You know, we've seen some other companies. There's a major private equity company called Stone Point, and they've purchased CoreLogic. They've purchased all of our forms companies. They've purchased all of our transaction management companies. they've purchased all of the broker back office companies. So they also are just aggregating as many businesses that are leaders in the industry. So I think right now, for the next 2 years, if you're a startup and you're looking for investment capital, your best bet is to go with other companies who are already successful offering products and services to the target audience that your that your product's going to serve. Then you can follow on with venture capital and then hopefully private equity as you go forward. But you know, our business, we've for the last I guess 7 years have been partnering with Rent to help companies in Europe into the American market. So if you guys think that you have something that might be interesting in America, especially around property marketing, please give us a call. We'd love to work with you. Thanks.
And see Victor, you can meet him on the Rent edition. Thank you guys, thank you to all of you of the quality of your exchange. Et vous pouvez évidemment donc tous les rencontrer dans les couloirs de ce salon. Merci à vous. Merci. Et prochaine conférence, je crois, dans 30 minutes. Merci.
Avez marre des méthodes de prospection traditionnelles toujours plus chronophages qui génèrent de moins en moins de résultats? La stratégie conseiller influent est faite pour vous. Recevez directement sur votre téléphone des demandes d'estimation sur votre secteur. Qualifiés par nos soins et transformés en rendez-vous vendeur directement pris dans votre agenda. Tout ce qu'il vous restera à faire sera de vous rendre en rendez-vous vendeur avec votre plus beau sourire. Rendez-vous au stand C66 pour découvrir la stratégie conseiller influent.